June 2022. Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. becomes the 17th President of the Philippines. It marks the end of an election campaign that focused on Gen Z-friendly platforms like TikTok. Their aim was to solidify the Marcos family's place in people's hearts. But the campaign was overtaken by a deluge of fake news and misleading claims. Random YouTube accounts claimed that 17th century French astrologer Nostradamus had predicted Marcos Jr. would win the presidency. That was followed up with anonymous accounts claiming that the Marcos family inherited tons of gold, which would be redistributed if they returned to power. Keeping a check on such political disinformation was the team at Verifiles, a Manila-based non-profit fact-checking organization.
In the last elections, we saw the rise of short-form videos being used to further disinformation. TikTok was used, video of Imelda Marcos tearing up, and there was dramatic music played in the background as if to try to grab sympathy for the Marcoses.
During the 2022 elections, Verifiles debunked 336 viral social media posts from January 1st to December 10th. 52 of the online posts specifically distorted facts about Ferdinand Marcos Sr.
The Marcos family benefited a lot from misinformation and disinformation. Historical distortionism, that the era of the Marcos dictatorship in the 1970s and the 1980s was the golden era of the Philippines, that there were no human rights violations committed under the Marcos era. There was no corruption during the Marcos dictatorship, all of which are false claims.
Carl Suyat co-founded Project Gunita, a non-profit dedicated to countering the historical revisionism of the Marcos martial law years. He believes the Marcos' online revisionism project dates back to the 2000s through the family's presence on Friendster, Flickr, and other now defunct websites.
It's a no-brainer to say that they utilized a huge part or huge portion of that ill-gotten wealth to pay social media influencers, to saturate social media with pro-Marcos content, with content that distorts Philippine history, particularly the martial law years, and to basically create this online infrastructure or social media infrastructure of disinformation and historical distortion, which made Marcos more popular with the public.
Carl is digitizing books, documents, magazines, and newspapers from the martial law era to preserve the historical truths about the Philippines.
A lot of people were massacred, taken away, detained, tortured, and hundreds of thousands were displaced in different barrios around Visayas and Mindanao as a result of this hamletting operations by the military. Of course, there were killings, there were extrajudicial killings, the most famous of which would be the 1983 assassination or quote-unquote salvaging of Ninoy Aquino at the Manila International Airport. Sa headquarters, yung headquarters ngayon ng MPD sa Manila. Tapos yung susunod ay ito si Father Brian Gore. The Marcos campaign, the Marcos PR campaign specifically, banked on national amnesia and that so-called truism of Filipinos being forgiving.
No, look, I don't want to talk about this anymore. If you do, I'm going to walk out.
Confronting historical lies in cyberspace is a battle being fought on Wikipedia too. This edit war is currently being waged by a loose band of activists in the midst of an information brawl. It's led by Josh Lim, the co-founder of the Wiki Society of the Philippines.
We've seen this in edits involving downplaying some of the atrocities of martial law. And what we've noticed is even non-Filipino editors have had an interest in why are we calling, for example, Ferdinand Marcos a kleptocrat in quotation marks. Now, the historical record shows that, with all due respect, he was.
It's an intense battle for the truth. On average, more than 376 edits are made on the Ferdinand Marcos Sr. Wikipedia page every year.
So I remember an editor called The Truth 16, and This editor was particularly insistent in sanitizing, if you will, the article on Ferdinand Marcos. Normally, these edits, if there is vandalism on Wikipedia, we're very good at reverting that very quickly. Especially if it's related to topics that are either controversial or they're topics that everybody knows about. But what we have noticed is increasingly over the last few years, people have become more sophisticated in hiding their edits so that they can escape detection more easily.
But political fact-checking in the Philippines has come at a cost. Verifiles has faced intimidation and censorship because of its critical analysis and exposure of false narratives.
One of the more serious attacks we've received came in 2019 during the midterm elections when Verifiles and our president, Ellen Tordesillas, was put in the middle of a matrix or a map of organizations and individuals supposedly seeking to oust then President Rodrigo Duterte. And in the Philippines, unofficially, if you're tagged as a communist, you're also seen as a terrorist, basically. I'd say one of the most harmful outcomes of political polarization